Hey everybody, it's been a while since I made a video, but there's been a few things on my mind. I've been real busy doing construction, carpentry. As you probably noticed, I just finished a fireplace, so in between painting, I got to do some building. Otherwise, I'd be probably more productive creatively or artistically. Anyway, I want to touch on a few things today. Pardon me. I kind of narrowed it down to my 10 commandments of creativity. 10 commandments of creativity. Some things I've noticed with some artists, professional artists, amateur artists, hobbyists, whatever they might be. But a few things I just wanted to point out. Number one, most of all, I want to touch on composition. I notice, I've been looking at a lot of artwork lately. Again, I even just got a new book, The Art of Robert McGinnis, who you could all look up, but I just got that as a gift. And he's a great composer, great illustrator, and did over 1,000 book covers in publishing, which is a business I was in. But anyway, compositionally, I notice a lot of paintings are really well done technically, but I often see poor compositions, and that's one thing I sort of try to emphasize when I do my paintings. I sit there for hours organizing objects and seeing the holes between them, the shadows, the reflectivity, which I'll touch on also, and just little nuances between objects, and sometimes with people, sometimes with animals, sometimes with trees and bushes and flowers. So it really doesn't matter, but everything in a painting has a relationship to everything else in a painting. So I just wanted to touch on that. Again, I'm not getting into a lesson or anything, but just want everybody to think a little bit more carefully about how they arrange their page or their, their picture or their story. The second one is interaction. I might as well tie that in with composition. If you have a couple of animals in a field, even if they're just sitting around eating grass or, I don't know, lounging or grazing or whatever they might be doing, if there's more than one, it's kind of important that there's some sort of interaction going on, meaning that they don't all look like they're individual objects thrown into a field on their own without sharing each other's space. So interaction is real important. Again, most of all, I've seen several scenes or paintings of a variety of people, a group or whatever. And again, the group might not have come from the same shoot. They might not have been shot together, as Norman Rockwell did all the time, as a matter of fact, or most often. He got individuals, posed them individually, came up with a composition or a story, or possibly a synopsis was given to him, which he had to follow, but he was able to put those people, although they were shot at different times, on different days, in different costume, but they all became unified when Norman Rockwell put them into a picture. So again, just want to touch on that for a second, and just mention that if you're going to put people or animals, or for that matter, still life objects, they really need to interact properly. I'll get into that in another video at another point in time in more depth and detail. Let's see. Drama. That's a good one. The two examples I can come up with, I'll just throw these out. Frank Frazetta and Boris Vallejo. Frank Frazetta is my favorite sci-fi artist. As a matter of fact, he's one of my favorite painters. Boris Vallejo, not so much. Great technician, but the big difference between Frank Frazetta and Boris Vallejo is the fact that Frank knows drama. Boris does not. When Frank has a dragon flying out of the sky toward, let's say, a gladiator, a soldier, a barbarian that was confronting this creature, there was drama between the two, living creatures. When Boris painted a picture, often, not all the time, he didn't have that sense of fear, that sense of interaction. that sensed that that dragon was going to kill that guy, and that guy needed to kill that dragon before he did. So that's all I'm going to say about that for now. But when you're painting a picture, look at what's going on. And again, from your point of view, you have to make sure that those two individuals or two creatures or whatever, if they have a relationship, there needs to be a particular drama between them, some sort of emotion. Let's see. Reflectivity. That's a good one. Reflectivity. Not that I can do it all the time, but if I do have a reflective surface, I try to make sure that that object or the still life, or most often with what I'm painting lately, has that feeling that it's on a surface and that the reflection actually proves the fact that that object is on the surface. And again, the other thing which is the next topic I had, what reflectivity also indicates is weight, because you know that now that that object is reflecting in a surface, that there's weight to keep that object on the surface. So again, I was going to touch on weight, but that goes hand in hand with reflectivity. And you can't do it all the time. You can have reflective objects, or you can have shadow objects. Shadows always connote weight as well. All right. The other thing, again, the most important aspect of all is, before you do any of this, you need to observe. I find that you can't just grab objects offline or online or from a book. You have to observe the subject matter in maybe its environment, or maybe in its light situation, or where it is in time, or things of that nature. It's important to observe the subject that you're painting. Okay, a lot of people don't observe, and even when they set up the paint, whether it be plein air, whether it be in a studio, I find that sometimes they don't observe properly. They don't really take a good look at what they're doing. So, most of all, before you undertake any of the other commandments, I won't call them commandments, but just things that I try to follow, that you really observe your subject matter and observe it closely, very carefully. And if we're going to go a little bit further into two other aspects of what I deal with, compositing images. Again, if you can't get all your subject matters into the same shot, which I try to do all the time. I hate compositing. As a matter of fact, none of my still life paintings are composited. None of the lighting is altered either. I try to get it into one shot, because the thing that I found out about light is, if you try to contrive it, make it up, fake people into believing you know where it's coming from, quite often you miss the nuances and the ambient subtleties that light takes when it passes through, behind, over, or in reflection of objects. So anyway, that compositing is real important. If you're going to do that, you really have to look at the shadows, the lighting source, and most of all, the proportion. Okay, proportions are another aspect that I'd like to mention. It's very important. Again, if you're going to, let's just say you're going to do a photo and you want to take a head off of an individual and you want to put another head on that individual, you have to make sure that when you transplant that head, that not only is the angle right, not only is the composition right, but the size of that head has to be anatomically appropriate to put onto that body, or else you can tell that in a second. And let's see. Oh, one more thing. Local color versus tube color. Okay, tube color. Again, I can't ask anybody this question because nobody's there to answer me, but tube color are colors that come out of a tube mixed up by an artist who didn't observe and didn't really look at colors, nature colors perhaps, trees, grass, foliage. If you really look at greens, greens don't come out of a tube that says grass green, tree green, or flower green. You have to have an understanding of, again, what happens to color when you mix it with its complement, or when you try to make, we'll say, a gray or a brown? How do you color that? What do you add to it? And again, I'm not going to get into color theory now. It's really difficult. I taught that in college. But local color is important, because what that means is that color that you have in a particular object might need to be trickled into your other objects. Not overwhelmingly, but just in small amounts, so that it creates sort of a bond or a continuity in your entire scene. So that, like, if the viewer is looking at your painting, they're not going to say, well, gee, that's the only cool color there. Everything else is warm. How come everything else is warm and that's cool? Again, that something like that could be pointed out in very well in a still life. So when you're mixing your colors, your shadows, your highlights, your midtones, make sure that you throw in a little bit of the corresponding color that surrounds it. Because the funny thing about color is, when you add a color, it changes the colors all around it. So you have to kind of, you have to stay in sync with that and follow it as you paint. Anyway, those are a couple of things I wanted to discuss today. It's a lengthy video as it is, so I'm going to cut short now, and I want to wish everybody a happy holiday and a happy new year. And hopefully our planet will be in much better shape in 2024. So long, everybody. Nice talking to you.